See that? Get a load of it. Dogs are playing here on Saturday against Clemson, high noon. Welcome to the Hammy Show, presented by Bulldog Illustrated. We are live from Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Tailgate Town, right outside the gates. And have we got an episode for you? We're talking top 25 rankings. We're going through the AP poll, what they got right, what they got wrong, and what I, of course, got right. So to start it off, we're just going to count down 25 all the way to 1. First being the group from 25 to 21. In that group, the AP poll has counting down 25 Iowa, 24 NC State, 23 USC, as in Southern California, the Trojans, number 22 Kansas, number 21 Arizona. Well, what I have: number 25 USC, Southern Cal, number 24 Virginia Tech, high on Virginia Tech, a huge sleeper going into this 2024 season. Then number 23 Miami, number 22 FSU, after a crushing defeat in Dublin, Ireland, to the number 21 team, that is Georgia Tech. So let's get a little breakdown. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to tell you why I got it right and why the AP poll got it wrong. So number 25, USC. The only reason I have them in my top 25 and not one of my next 4 teams missing that cut, which are Oklahoma State, Iowa, Liberty, and Memphis. Liberty and Memphis, 2 group of 5 teams, of course. Liberty with a great season last year, crushing loss, absolute routed by Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl last year to close out the 2023 season. Memphis, another favorite to win the group of 5 and sneak their way into that 12-team coveted college football playoff. After that, on the bubble, we've got Iowa. Their defense solely gets them, somewhat recognizable, but otherwise their offense is just stale. It's boring. They can't score points. It's 3 and outs, punts, and then their defense wins them ball games. So for that, I have them missing the cut of the top 25. Next is Oklahoma State. Mike Gundy is going into his 20th season as head coach of the Cowboys. They're a great football team. Mike Gundy's a great football coach. Ollie Gordon is a Heisman favorite. But OK State, they need to prove a little. I've got them favorite, top 4 in the Big 12. But the Big 12 is a little top-heavy with Utah being up there, and I've got them in my top 12, but we'll get to that a little later. But anyways, Oklahoma State barely missing that 25. So let's get on to USC. Back to business. Lincoln Riley. That's the sole reason they're in the top 25. He's one of the greatest quarterback masterminds in college football. 3 Heisman Trophy winners since Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams. Those 3 quarterbacks have gone on to NFL careers. Caleb Williams, a hopeful NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. However, I just don't have USC being, taking the next step forward. I think they are a top 25 team, but Miller Moss at quarterback, they've got a great chance to sneak their way into the playoff, but being in the Big Ten, that league, it's all one up front, and down in the trenches, USC just doesn't have the tangibles to take on the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Penn States of the Big Ten. So, next, number 24. This is my favorite. Virginia Tech. The Hokies, man. Brent Pry going into his 3rd season as head coach for the Hokies. What an atmosphere they have in Blacksburg, Virginia. I mean, that is one of the top-tiered college football atmospheres. Fan-wise, entering into that stadium, they're all jumping around up there. And Virginia Tech, what a season they could have. They're having an insurmountable amount of hype going around them into this 2024 season, and the big reason why: Kyron Drones, their quarterback, returns after throwing for 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, with 5 rushing touchdowns. In their bowl win, he had 176 rushing yards. The dude is an animal with his legs. So they've got 22 returning starters. Now you might think, well, Hammy, that's 100% of your offense and defense. Yeah, it's pretty close. They've got a few returning on special teams and not a few, just 2 not returning on defense. But that is the highest return percentage in all of college football. 134 college football teams. Virginia Tech is returning 22 starters. So to close out the season, they finished winning 5 of their last 7, including that bowl win over Tulane, 41-20. I'm telling you, Kyron Drones and Brent Pry going into his 3rd season. Virginia Tech, these Hokies, they've got a good chance to make a little run in this ACC. Don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if you find them in the ACC championship. I put a little money on them, I'm not going to lie, on the Hokies to win the ACC. How crazy would that be? A top 4 Virginia Tech team? That's how this 12-team playoff works. Whoever wins the conference gets a top 4 seed and a bye week in the first week of the college football playoff. I'm just saying, keep your eye out for Virginia Tech this year. Next, moving on to the next ACC team, number 23, Miami. Cam Ward transfers in from Wazoo, Washington State, all the way across the country to South Beach, Miami. Here we go, 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 3,700 plus passing yards last year. He was whizzing it all across the field. Missiles on missiles on missiles. I'm telling you, Cam Ward is something special. And if Mario Cristobal can figure out his Miami offense with Cam Ward leading it, Miami's a dangerous team. They are a dangerous team. They're a top 3 favorite to win the ACC alongside Clemson and Florida State. And a big reason is that Cam Ward. Cristobal, of course, is a defensive-minded coach, and he's got some studs in his front 7. That front 7 is looking to make a statement come this Saturday when they play Florida in the Swamp. So, number 23, Miami, big hype surrounding them. I would have them higher, but I think a few other ACC teams are in there and could make more of a statement than the U. Next, number 22, we have Florida State. Yep, 3 back-to-back ACC teams right there. Florida State having a crushing loss to Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland, in the Air Liga premiere of college football in this 2024 season. Florida State came in with so much hype. Mike Norvell off of a season where they barely missed the college football playoff. 13-0 in the regular season, ACC champions. And then, of course, Jordan Travis goes down and they miss the top 4 spots. They play Georgia in the Orange Bowl, and as we know, them dogs just absolutely stomped Florida State into the ground. And that's not knocking Florida State, because they did have just about every single person sitting out that game looking forward to the draft. Jared Verse being one of them, who is a huge loss from this Florida State team. Jordan Travis was, in my eyes, the Hammy Show winner for the Damn Good Player of the Year. That is because he was single-handedly the most important person in college football. It became evident when they were left out of the college football playoff solely because of Jordan Travis's injury. A horrible, horrible, horrible fate for the Noles, but as we know, it was well warranted. Florida State didn't deserve to be there. Well, they come in this season with all this hype. Revenge season, revenge tour. DJU all the way from Oregon State transfers back to the ACC after he left Clemson following the 2021 season. I'm telling you guys, Florida State could be and should be up there. Just because they have the spear on that helmet, they should be a top-tiered program, especially in the ACC, but they're not. The Nerds, from right down the road from where I'm sitting, the Nerds took it to them, beating them 24-21. DJU in the first half averaged negative -0.1 passing yards through the air, of course. But negative -0.01? What kind of quarterback is that? Now, I know he was coming into Florida State, expecting not to be the guy to go out and win you games. He was supposed to be the game manager. And the playmakers around him on the Noles were supposed to carry this team to an ACC title, a second straight ACC title, and to the college football playoff with, like I said, another one of those bye weeks. I just don't see the Noles doing that. I think they could come in here this week and struggle. They could struggle this week. And who knows, maybe they can get their season turned around once they get to the true conference schedule and they play more ACC opponents. And you never know, you could find them in the ACC championship, but I don't think DJU's got it figured out. I think in 2021, the Dogs just broke him down. In that 10-3 win in Charlotte, Georgia took down Clemson and DJU, and he's never been the same since then. So I just don't think Mike Norvell and these Seminoles can figure it out. I don't think they're going to win the ACC. I actually don't even have them in my ACC championship. That is an insanity, of course. But I'm telling you, This Virginia Tech team is scary. The next team I'm about to get to is scary. And then Clemson is obviously the ACC favorites. So that brings me to old number 21, Georgia Tech. Yep, I just talked a lot about them. They take down the Noles at Dublin, Ireland. They take them down in a fashion that was just smash-mouth football. When Florida State's defensive line was coming in there all hyped up, supposed to be one of the top defensive lines in all of college football. And Georgia Tech ran it down their throat. 190 rushing yards, 89 in the second half to Florida State's 20 rushing yards in the second half. Haynes King is a serious threat with his legs, not so much so with his arm, but Brent Key, boy, has he figured out Atlanta. I was listening to Josh Payton. He said, you know, Atlanta, Georgia Tech, it's one of those sleeping giants. Atlanta is an untapped market that is owned by the Georgia Bulldogs in the recruiting world. Well, if Brent Key can figure it out, get a few 5 stars on his roster, and then fill it out with a bunch of 4 and 3 stars, this Georgia Tech team could be pretty serious moving toward this 12-team college football playoff. They're a team that benefits from this 12-team college football playoff. With a 12-team format, they can win the ACC and, of course, get into those top 4 spots and have the bye week. But they can sneak their way into the top 12 and really make a run if they get a good draw in the first round. They get to host a football game in Bobby Dodd right here in Atlanta. I'm telling you, Georgia Tech's scary. I've said it a lot about these ACC teams. That's Virginia Tech, Miami, Florida State, and Georgia Tech from 21 to 24. How about them apples? How about them apples? They are the ACC running it in the top 25, 4 teams already. But little foreshadowing, they only have one more team. And a little more foreshadowing, it's Clemson. And that's it. And they're not in the top 12. Now, of course, the ACC is going to get that one of those top 4 spots, but I don't see any other ACC team sneaking in the top 12. However, like I said, this Georgia Tech team, this Virginia Tech team, they're scary, they're serious. And then Miami and Florida State, like I said, 2 of the top 3 favorites to win the ACC. I don't see them doing it. I see Clemson doing it, and we'll get to them later. But that rounds out the 25 through 21 spots. So let's go back to the AP poll. Who do they have from number 20 to number 16? Well, at number 20, they've got Texas A&M. At number 19, they've got Miami. I've already gone through Miami. Check that off the list. Number 18, Kansas State. I love the Wildcats. At number 17, they've got Oklahoma State. I told you Oklahoma State, I've got them outside of my top 25. Then, at 16, of course, OU, the Sooners, their first year in the SEC. Let's get to it. Let's get to it. So, number 20. Pulled out the wrong piece of paper. Number 20, I've got App State. This is my group of 5 champion. The Mountaineers from Boone, North Carolina, in one of the coolest college football stadiums. The setting around it, especially when you get into the leaf season and all of them leaves are turning orange and yellow. Dude, I'm telling you, App State's got a cool place up there in Boone, North Carolina, and they've got a pretty chilly team out there on the gridiron as well. I have them, like I said, the group of 5 champion, finding themselves in that 12 spot come the end of the season. Sean Clark is leading the charge for the Mountaineers. He's going into his 5th season as their head coach. It's his alma mater. You think he doesn't care about these Mountaineers? You think he doesn't care about App State making it and being the group of 5 champion and being in that CFP? The dude wears it on his sleeve. He's a Mountaineer, born and bred. Give me App State to get it all the way to the college football playoff and have that 12 spot. How fun would that be? How fun would that be? Then, number 21, I have, let's see. Oh, sorry, not number 21. I'm counting down. Number 20. Number 20, that is. Oh, whoops. I mean, I'm all over the place. These pieces of paper. You see this? I'm a handwritten guy. I'm a handwritten guy, and you should probably print stuff off, kids. But handwritten, that's old school. Claude Felton, the greatest sports media director, sports information director in all of college sports, retired recently, and he said, never travel anywhere without a pen. So I don't, and I still write handwritten notes. So anyways, number 19, I've got Kansas. Jalen Daniels, not Jaden Daniels, the LSU quarterback from last season, drafted to the Washington Commanders this year. Heisman winner last year, was a baller on the field. No, I'm talking about Jalen Daniels, who is also a baller. He's really injury prone though. They started 5-0 last season. He missed a month. A month. He came back, went for 544 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. That was in 2022. In 2023, he had a back injury, limited his whole season, didn't even have 1,000 yards because he played in like 4 games. Well, this kid is coming to play this year. He just wants to play, and what he does best is play. This kid at Kansas, he's going to show them that the Big 12 is nothing to joke around with. They're going to be like the new Pac-12. It's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be upsets on upsets. It's going to be late night football. It's going to be high power air raid offenses. It's going to be really fun to watch, and I'm excited about Jalen Daniels in Kansas. So that comes in at number 19, Kansas, and then their arch rival, in-state rival, Kansas State, coming in at number 18 in the Hammy poll. Chris Kleiman, he's a defensive genius. They lose Will Howard, their quarterback. He goes to Ohio State, transfers there, but they've got Avery Johnson coming in. The luscious locks of Avery Johnson. He's a big dude, tall guy, kind of skinny, but he can sling the ball around. Kansas State is a serious threat. They're fun to watch. That purple and silver is awesome. It's one of the greatest uniform combos in all of college football. Connor Riley, their offensive line coach, moves into an offensive coordinator position. He showed promise in the Pop-Tart Bowl as K-State beat NC State, 435 yards of total offense. Now out in Kansas, they've got some corn-fed boys on that offensive line. You get an offensive line guru as your offensive coordinator, he's going to have that group of 5 right there. They're going to be moving people in the Big 12. They're a serious threat. But I have them finishing in the Big 12 championship, but not winning. I'll get to my winner of the Big 12 in just a second. Next, number 17, Arizona. What a team they had last year. They were number 10 in the country at one point. Jedd Fisch was on a roll. Well, Jedd Fisch is gone. He moves on to Washington as Kalen DeBoer takes over the Alabama job. Jedd Fisch was a great coach, and he'll do great things at Washington. But he left this Arizona team that's higher ranked than his own Washington Huskies. I'm telling you, Noah Fafita, he's a Heisman sleeper. He's a for real quarterback. Could go in the first round come next year's draft, the 2025 NFL draft. He had 2,869 passing yards, 25 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions. His QBR, 85.6. That was best for 6th in the country. Then Teddaroa McMillan, their wide receiver. Besides Luther Burden, he might be the best wide receiver in all of college football. 1,400 receiving yards, 10 receiving touchdowns, 6'5", 210 pounds. He's a 50-50 ball guy, but he's also got blazing speed. This kid is a deep ball threat. He will do some dirty things to any defense that he comes in contact with. So there you are, Arizona, number 17. And finally, to close it out, number 16. Let me make sure I got this right. Texas A&M. Woo-wee. The Aggies, Mike Elko. They get rid of Jimbo Fisher, and the Elko era has begun. Elko came from Duke last season, where he and Riley Leonard were balling. They fell to Notre Dame, but they were absolutely stunting on the ACC, taking down Clemson in the beginning of the season, 28-7. Elko is a defensive genius. He was at Texas A&M as their defensive coordinator before being hired away to Duke, and he returns home to Aggie Land, College Station, where he's got a great quarterback in Connor Wegman. They got game day coming to their city this first week of college football, taking on Notre Dame. I'm telling you, Elko and the Aggies, they're going to be something special. The thing is with the Aggies, this is not a rebuild type of season. It's a reboot type of season. 247 just came out with their composite rankings of talent rosters. Now that means however many 5 stars, 4 stars, X amount of talent on your team. That's what they rank them as. Bama, still number 1. Georgia, number 2. Guess who's number 7? The Aggies. So Elko's not rebuilding. He's got plenty of talent. He's got studs all across the field. 5 stars and 4 stars everywhere, both sides of the ball. So he's not rebuilding. He's just bringing a culture together. That's what Jimbo was missing on. No knock to Jimbo, because Jimbo's a great coach, a national champion coach, but he wasn't the fit for the Aggies. He got his bag, and he got the hell out of College Station. But Elko comes in, He's going to take this Aggie team to serious places. I don't think they'll sneak into the college football playoff this year, but in the coming years, Elko and A&M, they're a scary bunch. A scary bunch indeed. All right, next, back to the AP poll. We have 15 through 11. 15. Actually, you know what we'll do? So we can keep the top 12 separate. We'll do 15 to 13 because I like these 15 to 13 teams. They kind of all go a little hand in hand, if you will. Number 15 for the AP poll, they have Tennessee, number 14, Clemson, and number 13, LSU. Well, here's how I have it. A little paper stack, keep it organized, kids. All this handwritten stuff is getting quite jumbled, but we're staying organized. I'm hoping this is not ear bleeding that you're having to listen to, but here we go. At number 15, I've got LSU. To the AP polls, number 13. Number 15, LSU is so fun to watch. I'm telling you, Brian Kelly, he came from Notre Dame. He left in the worst fashion possible, but look at their offense last year. I mean, Jaden Daniels was a menace on the field. Over 3,000 yards passing, 1,000 yards rushing. He was a monster. Malik Neighbors was his favorite receiver. He goes to the NFL, along with Brian Thomas. He goes to the NFL. So they lose their top 3 offensive producers on their offensive side of the ball. Brian Kelly, he's still a top-tier recruiter. He's still LSU. They're still the LSU Tigers. They're still in the SEC. Garrett Nussmeier is nothing to be trifled with. He's a serious quarterback. The only reason he sat behind Jaden Daniels is because Jaden Daniels was the best quarterback in college football. For all we know, Garrett Nussmeier could have been the second best quarterback in all of college football. He is going to be a threat in the SEC. Once again, like A&M, I don't find them sneaking their way into the top 12. I don't find them winning the SEC championship, but Brian Kelly's going to have some fun there in Death Valley. In Baton Rouge, Louisiana, when all the Cajuns come out at night and they get rowdy. That place is always a raucous environment, and it's going to be serious this year. Brian Kelly came out earlier this week and said, we're only here to win a national championship. So they've got a little fire under their seat. And then there's just someone special, someone real special on the defensive side of the ball. His name's Harold Perkins. He's one of the most highly touted recruits 2 years ago in high school. Well, Harold Perkins has had somewhat of a underwhelming college career in regards to what he was supposed to be. However, he's still a dog, an absolute dog, in the words of Pat McAfee. Well, I was watching LSU's social media, and they came out with the hype video, and they gave Harold Perkins that sacred number 7 jersey that all the best defenders, the defensive leaders of the LSU Tigers wear. Yeah, Harold Perkins got it. It kind of got me fired up, I'm not going to lie. He's a dog, like I said, and he's going to do some crazy things on defense. He will give quarterbacks nightmares, running backs nightmares, wide receivers nightmares when he drops back into coverage. He is just a beast on the gridiron and someone you should keep your eye out on for the Bronco Nagurski Award, Defensive Player of the Year. Next, we've got number 14, OU. OU comes into the SEC for the first time ever. Brent Venables entering his 3rd season as head coach at Oklahoma University. The Sooners are a fun team to watch, but they lose Dylan Gabriel to Oregon. He transfers. Their leading passer, quarterback, all that good stuff. He was a dog. However, Jackson Arnold steps in at quarterback. He was a pretty highly touted recruit, 4-star quarterback. He'll be fun to watch. Oklahoma's going to be a serious threat. Now, can they hang? That's the big question. If this was the Big 12, I'd probably have them playing Texas in the Big 12 championship. But they're in the SEC. You know what? They beat Texas last year, but that was 1 week. And then they played a Kansas or a Kansas State or a Arizona, who have all had in my top 25 this year. But the Big 12 is just different. It's not the SEC. They've got to do it week in and week out. They've got to beat Texas, and then they've got to beat Bama. Then they've got to beat, let's see who's on their schedule this year. They've got to beat Bama, Ole Miss, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, South Carolina, Auburn, and Texas. So you've got to do it week in and week out. That is some of the top talent in the SEC. I mean, come on. They avoid Georgia. But Bama, Ole Miss, Missouri, Tennessee, LSU, Texas? Venables is going to have his hands full. I think he'll finish in the top 25, not in the top 12. And that brings me to the final on the bubble team if the college football playoff were to start tomorrow. Now, of course, this is not how the college football playoff would work because I don't have an ACC team in the college football playoff, that top 12 slots. I don't have a group of 5 champion in those top 12 slots. But this right here, this is just what I think are the best teams week in and week out. These are the teams, if you were to go down the pecking order, they would beat the team below them and lose to the team above them. So, at number 13, my ACC favorite, Clemson, right there on the bubble. Now, if we flash forward to December, they win the ACC, they'll be in the top 4 spot. So this is maybe a little misleading, but like I said, these are the Hammy poll. This is more fun than the college football playoff. I mean, I'm sitting in front of Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Is College Game Day doing that? No, they're in College Station. I'm here. I'm braving the elements. I'm more fun. This is the Hammy poll, like I said. All right, Clemson, ACC favorite, Cade Klubnik, got to get stuff figured out. Got to get stuff figured out. He struggled last season. Now, we look at DJU, what he just did at Florida State. So, was it the right move to go to Cade Klubnik 2 years ago? Yeah, of course it was. Cade Klubnik is the better quarterback. DJU is not doing well. Didn't do well at Oregon State. He did decent. But in that first game at FSU, he really didn't do well. So, here you go, Cade Klubnik. Last season, his stats, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That ratio is not great. Those 9 interceptions are tough to look at. So, what can Dabo Swinney do? Well, Dabo Swinney has something special on his hands. He's got talent everywhere. Like I said when I was talking about A&M, in the roster composite rankings from 247, they were ranked 5th in roster talent. Barrett Carter on defense, that's their something special. That's the X factor. I think he's a top 3 defender in all of college football. Him, Harold Perkins, Mason Graham, Will Johnson, both Mason and Will are on Michigan. But Barrett Carter, he's right outside those top 2 defenders at Michigan. Barrett Carter is going to be trouble for any offense that he faces. He's going to be trouble right here in about 48 hours when he takes on the Dogs. He's going to wreak havoc. He's going to force Carson Beck out of the pocket. He's going to get to Trevor Etienne, not Travis, he's on the Jaguars. Trevor Etienne behind the line of scrimmage. It's just whether or not the Georgia offensive line can get to him first, because Barrett Carter will do something bad to your team if you let him. Then, he might not be an immediate starter, an immediate impact player, but he hits a little close to home, especially for me, but really for all Georgia fans. Sammy Brown, Jefferson High School, chose the Tigers over Georgia. Sammy Brown was a stud. He was Jefferson's leading tackler, leading sacks, leading tackles for loss, but he was also their leading rusher. The dude is an all-out athlete. He will be a dog in the coming years, if not play a serious role in this year's Clemson 2024 squad. So their defense is going to be stout, as always. I think they've got the best defensive line in the ACC, probably a top 10 defensive line and front 7 in all of college football. The Dogs are kind of looking over Clemson. But I'm telling you, don't do it. Don't do it. That 13.5-point spread that the Dogs have over Clemson, it's scary. It sure is scary, and Dabo Swinney's got a lot of fuel to give to his team in the locker room before that game. Right in this locker room right behind me. This stadium's going to be loud on Saturday, and Dabo's got something to prove. I think they can be the ACC champion, find themselves in the college football playoff, and of course, they'd get that bye week, so they're automatically in the second round of the playoff. Hey, anything can happen. Anything can happen. It's college football. That's why we love it. All right, moving on to the top 12. We'll start with the AP poll. We'll go in increments of 3, just like I just did. Number 12, AP poll has Utah. Cam Rising, Kyle Whittingham, 2 studs. Kyle Whittingham, of course, their coach going into his 20th season, just like Mike Gundy, who I talked about earlier. They're tied for the second longest tenures at one school in college football currently. It's crazy. You don't see many coaches going past 15 years in these days. But Kyle Whittingham has. Cam Rising is just as long tenured with Utah, too. But in the AP poll, at number 11, they've got good old Mizzou. Good old Mizzou. Brady Cook, Luther Burden, studs, Eli Drinkwitz. We're going to get to them in a minute on my rankings and where I have them. And then, number 10, they had FSU. What a joke. What a joke. This is why the Hammy poll is way more fun than the AP poll. You see, the Hammy poll did wait until Georgia Tech and FSU played. And full transparency, I had Georgia Tech unranked. They were on my bubble, and I had FSU at number 15. So I get a little heads up. I get, the week 0 update, what the final score was. But, yeah, the AP poll has FSU at number 10. So, on to my rankings. Number 12, who I have. Tennessee. Nico Iamavale. However you say it. It's hard to say. It's just like Tagovailoa, Tetaroa. But I'll get it right by the end of the season. Nico had a 35-0 win over Iowa. Joe Milton sat out the game, declared for the NFL draft. He's drafted to the Patriots, sitting behind Drake May, 2 rookie quarterbacks in New England right there. But Nico, it is the Nico era, and Josh Heupel is going to take full advantage of it. Josh Heupel, I'm telling you, in 2021 when they came out and they were 2022, when they were ranked number 1 in the country in that college football playoff ranking, first one that came out, and they came to Athens and Georgia was number 3, but we were number 1 in the AP poll, and it was 2 number 1s battling it out. Yeah, we took them down, but I'm glad we didn't have to play Tennessee again. Tennessee's a scary, scary team. Josh Heupel's got an offense that has a lot of firepower. Now, a lot of people have figured it out, but I still think old Heupel's got a few tricks up his sleeve. So, this team is something interesting because their offensive firepower is nothing to be trifled with. But they've also got another top 5 defender in all of college football. That is James Pierce. 9.5 sacks last season. He returns to the Vols when he could have been playing on Sundays. He would have been a first-round pick, and he's now a projected first-round pick. I think a projected top 5 pick. He's scary. He's scary like Barrett Carter. He's scary like Mason Graham. He's scary like all of these top defenders I've talked about. And he's in the SEC. He's got the chance to really show out. Once again, keep him on your watch list for the Bronco Nagurski. And finally, let's talk about their schedule. Somewhat manageable in regards to some of these SEC schedules like Florida and Georgia's. So they get Bama, they get Georgia, and they get OU. Top 15 teams. Well, they also get Mississippi State, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and Florida. One of the definitely more manageable schedules in all of the SEC. So, can they find their way to the 12-team playoff? I think they will. I think they sneak in right at that 9, 10, 11 spot, right on the bubble. They could be that 12 spot and just miss because of the Group of 5 champion getting the nod over them. But I think they're going to find themselves in December playing at somebody else's campus for the college football playoff, a chance to win the national title. Josh Heupel, once again, a national title winner as a player, a Heisman runner-up, and maybe a national title winner as a coach. Tennessee's a scary team. The Volunteers got something serious happening in Knoxville. Number 11 in the Hammy poll, Utah, my Big 12 champ. So let's take a quick note. If you use deductive reasoning, where we stand right now, my Big 12 champ is at number 11. I've gone through all of my ACC teams. I've gone through my Group of 5 teams. So, you must be thinking, Hammy, does that mean you just have SEC and Big 10 opponents? Big 10 teams? All ahead of these? Well, yes, you're right, and one independent, who I'm sure you can also use deductive reasoning to figure out. But let's talk Utah. I've got him as my Big 12 champ. Cam Rising is back, his 7th season at Utah. I love this dude. He's got grit. He's got resiliency. He gets knocked out in the Rose Bowl, and he comes back. Dude, this dude is something special. I love Cam Rising. I hope he gets drafted next season because he is a stud. He's a ball player. He is just a football guy. And then, like I said, I talked Kyle Whittingham. Second longest tenured coach in all of college football, tied with Mike Gundy. Now let's go back to 2021 and 2022. Before Oregon and Washington were duking it out for a playoff spot in the Pac-12 championship, before the Pac-12 ceased to exist, Utah was back-to-back Pac-12 champions in 2021 and 2022. You think they're going to go to the Big 12 and not want to make a statement? You think Kyle Whittingham is going to go to the Big 12 and think, nah, let's just let these historic Big 12 programs like Oklahoma State and Kansas State take me over? Nope, not so fast. In the words of Lee Corso, I think Utah comes in, takes the Big 12 by storm. They throw the ball all over the field. Cam Rising has a few hearty, heartfelt moments for this Utah team, and they go all the way to the Big 12 championship and lock in a top 4 spot. A top 4 spot, because they're the Big 12 champs in the college football playoff. And then finally, of these three, number 10, Penn State. Penn State's a funny team. They're really, really interesting because James Franklin is a good coach. Us SEC fans, we remember him at Vanderbilt. He always had those 1 or 2 wins when he was at Vanderbilt where he'd kind of take over a game and upset some SEC opponent. He did it to Georgia. That Vanderbilt team was, better than Vanderbilt is now. And that was all because of James Franklin. Well, James Franklin goes to Penn State 11 years ago. He's entering his 11th season. But here's the alarming thing about James Franklin. Now, granted, he's in a tough division. What was a division of the Big Ten? No divisions anymore. Keep that in mind. It's all going to be a learning curve for us. He played Ohio State and Michigan all the time, every year. But against top 10 teams, he is just 3-17. Against ranked teams, he's 12-26. Versus Ohio State and Michigan combined, he's 4-16. Ladies and gentlemen, that is tough. Tough to hear, tough to watch. So that is why I don't have him higher, whereas a lot of people do. The AP poll does. Josh Pate does. J.D. Pickell does. But I just don't think Penn State, James Franklin's got to prove to me that he can win the big one, the big game. He can show up and show out in the Big Ten when he's got to travel on the road, when he's got to defend his home turf in a whiteout. He's got to show up. Now, they do have some scary, scary weapons on that offense. Drew Aller was a pretty decent quarterback last season. He showed a lot of promise, but he showed a lot of turmoil. Now, if he gets things figured out, he will be a serious, serious top 3 contender of a quarterback in the Big Ten. That's behind Will Howard at Ohio State. And we might say Alex Orji of Michigan, but he's also got a lot to prove too. But Drew Aller, serious, serious threat in the Big Ten. And then in their running back room, probably the most talented running back room in all of college football. Katron Allen and Nick Singleton, both entering their sophomore seasons, had insanely good, stellar seasons as freshmen last year for the Nittany Lions. So, if they get this offense rolling, Abdul Carter on defense kind of shows out, could be a top-tier defender in the Big Ten. Shoo! Penn State could find their way into the top 12. I think they will. That's my prediction. Penn State in the top 12, not the Big Ten championship. I think that's Ohio State and Ohio State and Oregon. I think Penn State's got an opportunity though. I think they can upset one of those Big Ten teams. Let's look at their season last year, or in the previous seasons. 5-10 win seasons, 4-11 win seasons. But like I said, those top 10 teams, they give them heaps of trouble. Those ranked teams give them heaps of trouble. So what does James Franklin do? He's got to prove himself. Got to prove himself. All right, back to the AP poll. Let's see who we have from 9 to 7 in the AP poll. Number 9, Michigan. Harbaugh leaves. Sharon Moore takes over. Number 8, Penn State, just talked about them. And number 7, Notre Dame, the lone independent in the top 12 so far. So, for my number 9 team, I'm kind of flip-flopping right around here. Number 9 in the Hammy poll, Michigan. Like I said, Sharon Moore, first season as Michigan's head coach. He he takes over after Jim Harbaugh's departure to the LA Chargers, but look at all the drama surrounding Michigan. I'd like to drop in the comments. Tell me what you think. What's going on with Michigan? What's their next move? What happens to the Wolverines? Does the championship get vacated? Do wins get vacated? Does Connor Stallions get another college football job? It's interesting. It's interesting. Connor Stallions bringing a whole lot of turmoil to the Michigan Wolverines program. Jim Harbaugh getting out of there just in time. Is head coach Moore, going to take it all over? Is he going to take the blame for all of this trouble? Well, let's go to their actual on-the-field performance. Last year, they were obviously the national champions. J.J. McCarthy, their quarterback, leaves, drafted by the Minnesota Vikings. Blake Corum, leading rusher, top rusher in all of college football. He's gone. They had the most draft picks ever. In all NFL draft history, from one single team, they had the most draft picks of all time, beating Georgia's previous record set in 2021, or in the 2022 draft following the 2021 season. So they've got a lot of holes to fill. But just like these top-tiered programs that I've been talking about, the Georgias, the Bamas, the Ohio States, the Michigans, the Texases, even the A&Ms, the Clemsons, it's not rebuilding, it's reloading. I'm telling you. Michigan's so talented. They get all the recruits they want. They own the Northeast, Midwest area. They get them all. Now, it was a lot due to Harbaugh, but I'm telling you, head coach Moore, he's got some things to look forward to taking over this Wolverines college football program. So, next, number 10. Oh, excuse me, not number 10. Number 8. My independent. Marcus Freeman. So now we're looking ahead, and yes, everything moving forward is Big Ten or SEC teams. Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, entering his 3rd full season as the head coach of the Fighting Irish. Like we said, Brian Kelly left in the worst fashion ever. Well, guess what Notre Dame did? Marcus Freeman, they got him to stay after Kelly's departure. And then, after Michael Denbrock left to go with Brian Kelly to LSU, and lead the most potent offense in all of college football last season, yeah, he goes back to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, guess who they get in the transfer portal? Riley Leonard. Yeah, that Riley Leonard that I was talking about that was at Duke last season, they lost to Notre Dame barely in the last second with Mike Elko at head coach. Yeah, that Riley Leonard transferred to Notre Dame. How do you think those Duke fans feel? Not too hot. Well, Riley Leonard, talked about it earlier, took down Clemson last year 28-7, 4-0 in his first 4 games. Lost to Notre Dame in week 5, what we just talked about. He hurt his ankle, never fully recovered, was off and on the rest of the season. He gets to Notre Dame. They realize that he wasn't fully 100% in that ankle. Took a little rehab, had a surgery, missed some weeks of spring practice, but he is full on starting QB1 for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Freeman's a great recruiter. I listened to him on Pardon My Take the other day, and man, he's got a lot of fire. I love Marcus Freeman. I am hot on Notre Dame. I think they can do some serious damage in college football this year. They've got a tough schedule. I will say that. They play a lot of these Big Ten, a lot of these ACC teams that we've talked about. They are a fun team to look out for. And guess what they have week 1? Texas A&M. Yeah, college game day coming to your city. They are going to College Station, the Fighting Irish are, to take on the 12th man, all 110,000 of those Texas A&M Aggies. Marcus Freeman's looking to prove something. I'll get into my predictions a little later, but foreshadowing moment. I like Notre Dame's chances a lot, despite Texas A&M being favored. All right, next, number 7. This is one of my favorite teams in the SEC. Of course, I don't root for them because I am a dog through and through. But let me tell you, Missouri at number 7, they're fun. Brady Cook is a stud. He's going to be a great NFL quarterback one day. I think what Eli Drinkwitz has done in Como is something serious. Luther Burden's the best wide receiver in college football. Let's take a look at their stats. Brady Cook, Luther Burden, best wide receiver duo in all of college football. Burden, 1,212 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns with a 14.1 yards per catch stat. I mean, can you get much better than that? No, you can't. He is the number 1 returning receiver in all of college football. Cook, on the other hand, 3,317 passing yards to just 6 interceptions. He had 21 total touchdowns with a 77.6 QBR. And of course, I'm not a huge bowl guy. Like, you win your bowl game and, it's a telltale sign of what's going to happen next season. No. But I do think it's a little bit of momentum. I think what they did to Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl was big time. Beat them 14-3. Of course, Ohio State was missing their starting quarterback. They were missing a few pieces on offense and defense, but damn. Dude, that Missouri team showed up and showed out in Texas to take down the Buckeyes in the Cotton Bowl. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch. I have them in my college football playoff. They are going to be havoc wreakers in the SEC this year. All right, now let's go back to the AP poll. We're going to go one by one now. So, in the AP poll, at number 6, they've got Ole Miss. Oh, hotty toddy. Well, guess who I have? I've got Bama. Kalen DeBoer enters his first season, filling maybe the biggest shoes to ever fill. Nick Saban is the most legendary coach in college football history, the winningest coach in college football history, the most national titles, and so on and so on and so on. Every accolade that you can even imagine, ever imagine, Nick Saban did it. So Kalen DeBoer, big shoes to fill. However, look what he did at Washington. He took them to the national championship. He lost to a Michigan team that beat the Alabama team that he's now coaching. Now, yes, when Saban departs, he loses some quality pieces on that Alabama team to the transfer portal, most notably Caleb Downs, the number 1 safety in all of college football, as he heads for Columbus, Ohio, to be a Buckeye. Well, DeBoer, guess what he keeps? Jalen Milroe, X Factor. Milroe torched the Dogs in the SEC championship in that building right behind me. That whole hunk of steel and concrete, yeah, that's Jalen Milroe's house right now. He kind of owns it. It hurts my heart to even say that, but he did that to us. He owned us. He ran all over us. He passed all over us, and he's back, and he's better, and he's Alabama's starting quarterback. And Kalen DeBoer, look what he did with Michael Penix Jr. You think he's not going to do the same with Jalen Milroe? Dude, I'm telling you, they're going to have a special relationship. Isaiah Bond as a wide receiver. Woo, woo, woo. Man, Bama's fun. I hope they lose. I'm not a Bama fan, but Kalen DeBoer, I think he's going to have a serious season at Alabama. A few more stats that are notable for the Crimson Tide. I said it in the 247 Composite Talents rankings. They were number 1. So much like Mike Elko getting to Texas A&M, DeBoer is not rebuilding. The culture at Alabama is set, and DeBoer does not need to change it. If he does, he's stupid. They've got 67 blue chips. Now, in terms of 247 rankings, blue chips mean 4 or 5 stars. They've got 17 5 stars on their roster. Georgia's next with 16, so the margin is small. But, dude, 17 5 stars? You could field almost an entire football team on offense and defense with just 5 stars at Alabama. They're still the same Bama. They're still the same Crimson Tide. Their schedule's tough. They get UGA, Tennessee, Missouri, LSU, and OU. They avoid Texas and Ole Miss. So, tough schedule, manageable, better than the Dogs' schedule, better than Florida's schedule. Not as good as Ole Miss's schedule, not as good as Tennessee's schedule. But we'll see what Bama can do. Number 5, I switched spots from the AP poll. Number 5, the AP poll has Bama. And number 5 for me, I've got Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin, the most fun college football coach, transfer portal king. What has he done? He's built a team in the transfer portal. He loses Quinshon Judkins, though. Probably the best running back going into this college football season, besides Ollie Gordon. I think Quinshon Judkins for Ohio State is going to do some crazy things for the Buckeyes alongside Travion Henderson, their other running back, but we'll hold that for Ohio State's talk. Lane Kiffin, though, in the portal, he gets Walter Nolan from A&M, the number 2 ranked player in the class of 2022. Jackson Dart is tied for 5th in the 2024 Heisman odds. He returns for what could be a standout season, maybe the best season we've seen in Oxford, Mississippi since Eli Manning. They've got a 7% chance to win the SEC, finished with a 38-25 win over Penn State in the Peach Bowl. Like I said, I don't take those wins in the bowls to be some super fortune-telling moment for this next season, but it is a momentum. It is a little bit of momentum, and for that reason, I still got Ole Miss obviously higher than Penn State, but I've even got them higher than Bama. They've got a tough but manageable schedule, light in terms of SEC work. They've got to go to LSU. They've got OU at home and Georgia at home. So, 3 top 25 teams. However, they avoid Bama. They avoid Tennessee. They avoid Missouri. They avoid Texas. So, Ole Miss has got a pretty good shot to find themselves in this building right behind me. J.D. Pickell on 3, the hard count, said Ole Miss would be here to face Georgia in Atlanta as an 11-1 team with a chance to win the SEC championship. Something to note, they've never been to the SEC title game. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, they're going to be fun. They are going to be fun. Then, at number 4. Number 4 is pretty across the board the same among everybody's rankings. In some order, you've got Georgia, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas. Well, that is just what the AP poll has. Texas at number 4. Steve Sarkisian entering his 4th season as the Longhorns head coach. Quinn Ewers, 3rd best Heisman odds. He's a dog. He is an absolute dog, getting all the NIL deals he wants, shaved his mullet, he's wearing Wrangler jeans. He is the epitome of a Texas quarterback. Took down Bama last year, but once again, just like OU, can they hang? That's the big question. That is the whole question mark surrounding all of Texas, the entire Lone Star State. Can they hang? So, you do it to Bama. You go to Tuscaloosa. You take them down. Beat them by 10 points. But can you do that every week? Can you? Can you play Georgia? Can you play Texas A&M? Can you play LSU? Can you play OU? And do it every single week? It's not the Big 12. It is not the Big 12. So, I will say, they're a scary team because we don't want it to happen, but injuries happen. College football is full of them. And unfortunately, it happens a lot of times to quarterbacks. So if Quinn Ewers goes down, they've got probably the best backup quarterback in all of college football in Arch Manning. Yes, he's got the last name, all of the hype surrounding him, the number 1 player in the class of 2023. But let me tell you, he is something serious. He can prove it on the field. On the defensive side of the ball, Sarkisian has built a D-line monster. They lose to Vondre Sweat, the Outland Trophy Award winner and unanimous All-American last year. He gets drafted in the 1st round, but they retain a strong bunch on that in that front 7 and on the defensive line. The only question marks on this Longhorn team is the secondary. But they do have a chip on their shoulder. After an early exit from the playoff, a playoff that a lot of people expected them to be in the national championship game, they lose to Washington. The Huskies take them down. The Pac-12 in their last and final showing of a season make it all the way to the national championship with Washington beating Texas in the semifinal. So I think this Steve Sarkisian-led Longhorn team is going to be a little chippy. They're going to have that chip on their shoulder. They have something to prove. They're going to the SEC. They want to take it to these opponents that they face it week in and week out. They host the Dogs, the preseason number 1 ranked team in the AP poll. And we'll get to it in a second where they are in my poll. But they take them on in Austin. F1's there that weekend. It could be a fun time in Austin. Texas is going to have a lot of fun this season. I have them in my SEC championship playing the Dogs right behind me. I'm not going to say who I have winning that game yet because we don't know. We don't know. We haven't seen anything from Texas or Georgia, but they will be in the college football playoff, mark my words. Finally, at number 3, the AP poll got Oregon. Well, I have Ohio State, and here's why. This is up for debate. Ohio State spent the most money on NIL. Spent the most money in recruiting, in the transfer portal, but will it show? Can you build a team from the transfer portal? I think potentially, but do I think you can build a national championship team? Probably not. It hasn't really been done yet. You build a team from high school, you work them through your system, just as Georgia has done in 2 of the last 3 seasons, what Michigan did last year. You've got to build it through high school. Now, needless to say, Ohio State did kill it in high school recruiting as well. But notable transfer portal gets. Quinshon Judkins, like I said, Ole Miss running back, transfers there to partner Travion Henderson and probably tied for, if not the best, with Penn State's running back room, the best running back room in all of college football. They've got the number 1 defense in all of college football, led by their transfer portal get in Caleb Downs, the safety from Alabama. The dude was a stud. He is something special. Will be playing on Sundays, will be a future Hall of Famer, will be a Super Bowl champion if he's put on the right team. I think Caleb Downs is seriously one of the best defenders in all of college football. But, why are they not ranked above Oregon? Well, what has Ohio State done in the last 3 seasons? They've lost to Michigan. They've missed the college football playoff. They've lost to Georgia in the college football playoff. They haven't proven themselves. They can't win the big one. Ryan Day can't win the big one. So, if he takes down Michigan this year, Big Ten championship, here they come. If you take down Oregon in the Big Ten championship, college football playoff first week bye, here they come. But I don't think they can do it. For that reason, I have Oregon at number 2, while the AP poll has Ohio State at number 2. Oregon, on the other hand, Dan Lanning. Man, what a story. I love Dan Lanning. When he was at Georgia, he was one of the most fiery dudes on the sideline. He was an excellent assistant coach, somebody who Kirby Smart reveres to this day. And yes, in his first Oregon, almost messed up there. In his first Oregon game as a head coach in this building behind me, gosh, so much history has happened here. Georgia took them down 49-3, an embarrassment. Well, since then, Dan Lanning has been a stud. Last year, he lost twice to Washington. Heartbreaking defeats in the regular season and in the Pac-12 championship. Chip on their shoulder. They lose Bo Nix, the quarterback. However, they get Dylan Gabriel from OU, the Heisman favorite. The dude's a stud. Legs, arms, everything. He can throw the ball. He can run the ball. He's a game manager, a leader in the locker room. Only concern is he's moved, and he's been in college football. But that's an advantage, too. He's been in college football for 6 seasons now, I believe. 6. It's like Stetson Bennett. Stetson Bennett was the last quarterback to go 6 seasons in college football. Last notable quarterback to do it. And he won 2 national championships. Could be Dylan Gabriel. Dan Lanning's team is one of, if not my favorite, let's phrase this correctly. They're my second best team to win the national championship. They have unlimited NIL money. So not only will they be a stud this year, a stud of a team, they will be special for the years to come. Phil Knight just announced that he will give them infinite amounts of NIL money. The old man that owns Nike wants to see Oregon, the Ducks, bring home a national championship. So he said, why not? I'll give you all my money. You can go out and get whoever you want. Dan Lanning, just bring me a national championship. Is that this year? Maybe. Are they my Big Ten champions? Yes, they are. Which brings me to number 1. Yep, number 1. Them dogs. We agree. Me and the AP poll. We are one and the same. Georgia is the best team in all of college football. I say it confidently, not cocky. Confidently because of a few things. Number 1, you've got the best coach in college football. Number 2, my opinion, the best quarterback in college football. Dillon Gabriel's the Heisman favorite. Maybe that's a testament to what Oregon's offense will do. Maybe that's a testament to what Dan Lanning, the Pac-12 formerly, and now the Big Ten, what their offenses do, the matchups that he faces on defense. That could be the Heisman stat padding numbers that Dillon Gabriel needs. However, Carson Beck is the best quarterback in college football, and I say that for 2 reasons. Number 1, he's a 5th-year senior. He has stayed with one team. He knows this offense. He retains his play caller in Mike Bobo. He has been here, learned from, and sat behind Stetson Bennett, who won 2 national championships. And he's got the best coach in college football on his side. He's looking to leave his own legacy. Last year they fell short in that building. Hurts my soul, hurts my heart, hurts everything about me. Chip on his shoulder. A lot of teams with a chip on their shoulder. Carson Beck, maybe the biggest chip. He's been overshadowed by Stetson's career. So why not? Why not go win you a Heisman? Why not go win you a national title? Why not get that number 15 retired? Why not get a statue at the University of Georgia? Why not be always revered as one of the top-tiered quarterbacks in all of Georgia football history? That's Carson Beck, folks. That is Carson Beck. That is who he is. That is how he plays. He's a reserved guy, a leader by example, but he is the dogs guy. Next reason, the weapons. Yes, you lose Ra Thomas to legal troubles. Yes, you lose Ladd McConkey to the draft, Brock Bowers to the draft. Yes, you lose Marcus Roseman-Jack Saint to the NFL too. But look who comes next. Dominic Lovett, he's back. Dylan Bell, my X factor for the entire season. One of the craziest all-around athletes in all of college football. Threw the ball for a touchdown last year, lined up as running back last year, and caught the ball last year. All 3. He scored in all 3 of those categories. I love Dylan Bell. Number 86, sign me up. Sign me up. Looking for him to have a huge game this Saturday against Clemson in the stadium right behind me. So, now to Kirby Smart. Talked about him a little bit. 9th season as Georgia's head coach. Best recruiter in all of college football. And here's what's the big, big key factor. Who has Georgia lost to? In the past 3 years. Who have they lost to? Well, I'll tell you. Alabama. And that's it. Twice in this building. Yep. Simple as that. That's all they've lost to. So somebody's got to show, like Nick Saban said last week, on College Game Day, the former coach, the former GOAT, now the current GOAT, said Alabama is the only team to beat Georgia, and everybody else has to show that they can beat Georgia. Well, nobody's shown it. For that, they're the number 1 team in all of college football. Other key factors in this number 1 ranked team of the Georgia Bulldogs. Trevor Etienne. Kirby Smart's not a huge portal guy, but he's gone out and gotten some studs. Dominic Lovett being one. Ra Thomas last year before legal troubles was one. This year, Trevor Etienne. The running back from Florida was Florida's leading rusher. His older brother, Travis, is in the NFL playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Was a stud against the team we play on Saturday. A national champion running back for the Clemson Tigers. Yeah, his little brother, Trevor Etienne, is just as good, maybe even better. He is on the All-SEC preseason team, first team. He is a preseason All-American watch list, and he comes to the best team in all of college football behind the best offensive line in all of college football. On the defensive side of the ball, Georgia has a few question marks. The defensive line, not a lot of depth. In the 2 national championship years you look at, in 2021 and 22, you have Jalen Carter. You've got Jordan Davis. You got Devontae Wyatt. Well, last year, I think that was a huge factor in why we couldn't beat Bama. A huge factor why we didn't make it to the college football playoff. A huge factor, obviously, if we're not in the playoff, we can't win it all. But yeah, we didn't have that dude on the defensive line. That guy that just gets in between the center and the tackle, the guard, wherever, and gets to the quarterback. You know, an interesting stat. Georgia is the number 1 team in scoring defense. However, in the SEC, they have ranked near the bottom in all 3 of the last seasons in sacks. Crazy. I know. It's a crazy, crazy stat. But you've got to find that dude on the defensive line. Nazir Stackhouse returns. He had a great few games last season, showed up and showed out. The pick against Missouri, a big man running down the sidelines. Everybody in Sanford Stadium wanted him to get that touchdown. He fell short of the goal line, but what a moment for Stackhouse. I think he's going to be the staple of this defensive line. He's got to step up, be a leader, turn into that Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter-like character. And then at linebacker, man, are the dogs loaded. C.J. Allen. They lose Jamon Dumas-Johnson, and I think solely because C.J. Allen steps in, and he was the better player as a true freshman. So Dumas-Johnson was like, to heck with that. I got to get to Kentucky. I got to get out of Athens. I'm not going to be better than C.J. Allen. I'm not going to start. What happens to my draft stock? Yeah, that's C.J. Allen. He moves from number 33 to number 3. Guess who wore number 3 as a linebacker last? Roquan Smith. If he has anything, any season like Roquan Smith did, C.J. Allen is bound and determined to be a special player for the University of Georgia. Next to him, you got Smile Mondon. Smile, number 2, middle linebacker, a beast. He caught that crazy pick 6. We're standing 2 days away from college football here in this Mercedes-Benz Stadium. 2 days to kick off. I posted about Smile today. He had that crazy pick interception against LSU in the SEC Championship in this building. Tipped off the helmet, tipped off of Javon Buller's hands right into Smile Mondon's hands. He's a playmaker. He's a great middle linebacker. That defensive middle is going to be solid for the Georgia Bulldogs. And then in the secondary, Malachi Starks, top 10 player in all of college football. Behind Caleb Downs, the second best safety in all of college football. Next to him, you've got Dirty Dan Jackson. Dirty Dan is a dog through and through. A damn good dog, laying his body on the line. A professor of things in general, if you will. He is a well-traveled young dandy affecting foreign ways. He is a special, special player. Somebody who wears his heart on his sleeve and will leave it all on the line for them dogs. Behind him, you got Ellis Robinson, who could step in and really take control as a leader on this team as a true freshman. And then another true freshman, K.J. Bolden. How about them apples? You get K.J. Bolden from Buford. Dogs have been missing on some Buford players. Has Kirby Smart officially tapped into the Buford powerhouse that is in the high school football realm? K.J. Bolden could be the start of that. K.J. Bolden's going to be a seriously good player for this Dogs defense. But let's go back to the offensive line. I talked about it as the number 1 offensive line in all of the country. You return 4 starters. 4. Tate Ratledge, one of the top players in all of college football. Big number 69 having the best mullet in all of college football. He returns. Then next to him, you got Micah Morris. God, Big Mike, number 56, one of my favorite human beings. Had a lot of good times with Big Mike in college. Big Mike, shout out to you. Love you, buddy. And happy belated birthday. That offensive line, those two, especially, good Lord. They're going to create some gaps for ETN in the backfield. Nate Frazier coming in as a true freshman running back. Branson Robinson coming back from injury. Roderick Robinson, if he plays on Saturday with the turf toe, he could be a threat. The running back room behind that offensive line. Carson Beck in the pocket behind that offensive line. A lot of time back there. A lot of time indeed. And then your tight end room. Oscar Delp. He's taken over and filling maybe the second biggest shoes in all of college football behind Nick Saban, and that is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the most legendary, the greatest tight end in college football history, and Oscar Delp has to fill those shoes. Do I think he can do it single-handedly? No. Do I think they can do it as a tight end room committee? Yes. Delp, Lucky, all of those guys in that tight end room. Urasek, the transfer from Stanford. That tight end room is something scary. And the way that Bobo, the way that Kirby Smart has figured out that tight end room, how to utilize them in the best way possible, they're going to get the ball. Ball will be in their hands. They're going to be playmakers in this Georgia team for that reason. For all of those reasons, is the number 1 team in all of college football. So that's my rankings, ladies and gentlemen. Let's run through them one quick time, if I can get to the piece of paper that says it. Here we go. We're just losing pieces of paper. We're losing them all. I'll clean them up later. I'm not littering, I promise. All right, Hammy poll. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Oregon. Number 3, Ohio State. Number 4, Texas. 5, Ole Miss. 6, Bama. 7, Mizzou. 8, Notre Dame. 9, Michigan. 10, Penn State. 11, Utah. 12, Tennessee. 13, Clemson. 14, OU. 15, LSU. 16, A&M. 17, Arizona. 18, Kansas State. 19, Kansas. 20, App State. 21, Georgia Tech. Notable stat. While I'm in their city, I got to say this. Brent Key and the Yellow Jackets are 5-0 against ACC opponents that are ranked in the top 25. Something to keep an eye on. They just did it to Florida State. They got Georgia State in this city this weekend. Man, is Atlanta going to be rocking. All right, after Georgia Tech at 21, you got 22, FSU, the Noles. Number 23, Miami, the Hurricanes. Number 24, Virginia Tech with head coach Brent Pry. Kyron Drones, special season, returning so much talent. And number 25, USC. On the bubble, just missed out, is OK State, Iowa, Liberty, and Memphis. That's your Hammy poll, ladies and gentlemen. And to close it out, let's talk a little gambling. Let's win some money. We're going to call it Hammy's Heat of the Week, Hammy's Hail Marys, whatever you want. I've got the lines that can put some money in your pocket. All right, number 1, just talked about it, Georgia State and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is on their high horse. That win in Dublin was huge. Program changing, program defining, Brent Key defining. He's at his alma mater. He cares. He wants to defend the 404 as they take on Georgia State. They're 21-point favorites. But are they a little too cocky? I think so. Georgia State plus 21. Take them. I promise. You won't regret it. Notre Dame at Texas A&M. College game day. Riley Leonard. He was with Mike Elko. A ton of storylines surrounding this game as Mike Elko departs for A&M. Riley Leonard goes up to Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman in that Riley Leonard offense. I think they take it to Texas A&M. In College Station, Notre Dame money line. Do it. Plus 125. A&M favorite. I think it's a heap of money that could be put in your pocket if you put a little dough on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Next, Florida hosting Miami. The Hurricanes, the U. The Canes enter the swamp as favorites. However, Billy Napier has the toughest college football schedule in the nation. This SEC schedule is no joke. He needs a win. If not, he'll go 4-8, maybe 3-9. So he's got to win this Miami game. And I think he does. I think Miami has a lot going for them, but too much hype on the train. The Cristobal train, I don't trust him. I don't trust him at all. After that Georgia Tech game last year, the worst clock management in college football history, Tech comes back to win it. All he had to do was just freaking take a knee and run out the clock, and he decides to run the ball. They fumble. Tech gets it back, takes it to the house. Tech wins. I don't trust Mario Cristobal. So for that reason, give me the SEC. Give me Florida. Money line plus 120. Lock it in. Next, right here behind me. That spread is scary. 13.5-point favorites for Georgia. Does this game show replays of Oregon in 2022? Maybe. Do the Dogs open up the season with a big 49-3 win? Maybe. But I'm too superstitious, so just give me Georgia money line. Not a great value bet. I think they're plus or minus 600. So don't necessarily take it for the value, but if you're a true Georgia fan, you always take the Dogs money line, no matter how unfavored they are or favored they are. It's always Dogs on top. Then let's get to some props. Once again, right behind me in this stadium, Oscar Delp, the tight end, taking over for Brock Bowers, who we just talked about, over 28.5 receiving yards at minus 114. I think Carson Beck puts the ball in his hands quite a bit. Mike Bobo finds him, works him into the play calling, and Oscar Delp goes for 28.5 receiving yards or more. Next, down to the swamp, Florida and Miami. We just talked about it. Graham Mertz, the quarterback, he's back at Florida, leading the Gators. I think he has a big game. I think he's got a big game. I didn't like his passing yards value. Over 200-ish, right around that range of that amount of passing yards. I don't think he does that, not confident in it. However, I do think he throws for over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Finally, up to Texas A&M and Notre Dame. Riley Leonard, first game as the starting quarterback of the Fighting Irish, taking on his former head coach at a different school and the Texas A&M Aggies. We talked about A&M. We talked about Notre Dame. They're both fun teams to keep an eye on, but Notre Dame gets the win, and Riley Leonard has over 195.5 passing yards. That's your Hammy's Heat for the week. Lock it in. Put it in your betting account wherever you bet, whoever you bet with, whether online or on paper. Get to your bookie and tell them Hammy's Heat for the week. It's no Hail Mary. It's just Hammy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Hammy Show presented by Bulldog Illustrated. I'm live from Mercedes-Benz Stadium here in Atlanta, Georgia, where the Dogs take on the Clemson Tigers in less than 48 hours. Ladies and gentlemen, get here, be early, be loud, be intense, be tough, be electric, be elite Dog fans. It's going to be a fun one. High noon kickoff. See y'all then. This is Hammy Culpepper signing off. The Hammy Show presented by Bulldog Illustrated. Thank you.